Picture this. Bullies target the quiet new student, thinking she's an easy mark. One even attempts to strike her face. Big mistake. What happens next leaves everyone speechless as she reveals skills they never saw coming. Maya Reed adjusted her backpack straps while crossing Jefferson High School's courtyard. At 16, school changes were routine for her, a byproduct of her mom's tech career that kept their family constantly relocating. Every fresh start meant the same cycle: memorizing unfamiliar faces, adapting to different regulations, and decoding the unspoken social structures that only established students truly grasped. Yet fear never entered the equation for Maya. She carried a secret that Jefferson students would never suspect. She was Vin Diesel's niece, and her famous uncle had ensured she possessed the skills to handle herself in any situation. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai had been part of her routine. Since age 8, during backyard training sessions in Los Angeles, Vin would remind her, "This world's harsh, kid. You need to be stronger, but never heartless." Jefferson High presented an impressive exterior. Polished red brick walls and majestic oak trees suggested a welcoming environment, but Maya understood that looks could deceive. The school's power structure became apparent quickly. A group called the Crew, seniors who believed their final year granted them authority to intimidate anyone they chose, controlled the social hierarchy. Blake Morrison led this pack. Tall, broad-shouldered, with piercing blue eyes, an arrogant smile, and a pickup truck that thundered louder than the marching band. His followers included Chase Walker, a linebacker who treated lockers like personal punching bags, and Logan Price, a lean troublemaker who enjoyed recording others' embarrassing moments on his phone. Maya spent her first 2 weeks maintaining a low profile. She lunched beneath the bleachers, took lengthy routes around campus to avoid the crew's territory, and participated just enough in class discussions to remain unnoticed. Survival meant blending in, staying hidden. Everything changed with an accidental collision near the chemistry lab. Maya, carrying an armload of textbooks, turned a corner and bumped into Chase's shoulder. He glared down at her as if she were nothing more than a bug daring to cross his path. "Watch where you're going, newbie," he barked, knocking her books to the ground. Maya knelt silently, collecting her belongings without looking up. She recognized his type, boys who mistook cruelty for strength. Ignoring him might make him lose interest, but Chase wasn't finished. "What's your hurry? Afraid you'll be late for chess club or something?" His laughter drew snickers from nearby students. Maya gathered her things, tucked a stray hair strand behind her ear, and walked away wordlessly. By lunch, the incident had spread through school faster than wildfire in drought conditions. "The new girl acts like she's above us," Logan sneered. Blake smirked from across the cafeteria, nudging his companions. "We'll need to correct that attitude," he said ominously. The following days became a trial by fire. Maya discovered nasty notes crammed into her locker. Someone dumped soda into her backpack during gym class. Mocking laughter followed her through the corridors. Throughout it all, she maintained her dignity, just as Vin had instructed. "Never give bullies satisfaction," he'd say. "Keep your ground steady, even when everything around you shakes." The crew wasn't accustomed to being dismissed. They intensified their harassment. One afternoon, exiting Spanish class, Maya spotted Blake, Chase, and Logan, positioned against the lockers outside. The hallway was nearly empty. She considered retreating but refused to surrender power to them, so she continued forward, gripping her backpack more firmly. Blake stepped away from the wall and approached her, his boots creating heavy, intentional sounds against the floor. "Listen here, sweetheart," he drawled, blocking her route. "You're new, so you don't understand our system yet. When someone like me addresses you, you stop and pay attention." Maya offered a polite, strained smile and stepped sideways to pass him. That's when Blake made the error that would haunt him forever. With overconfident swagger, he raised his hand as if to slap her face. Not violently, just enough to humiliate her before the few remaining students who had begun watching. Time seemed to freeze. In that moment, every lesson Vin had embedded in her muscle memory activated. Maya ducked beneath his arm with trained grace. She caught Blake's wrist mid-swing, twisted it sharply toward his torso with controlled precision, and struck the side of his knee with surgical accuracy. The larger boy cried out in pain and crashed to the floor, grasping his arm in disbelief. Chase and Logan stood motionless, stunned by the speed of events. Maya remained composed, breathing steadily, her hazel eyes blazing with intensity. "If you ever lift your hand toward me again," she said quietly, but with carrying force, "you'll be drinking your meals through a straw." She didn't wait for their response. Maya shouldered her backpack and walked down the hallway with calm, measured steps. Behind her, heavy silence enveloped the few witnesses, and news began spreading like lightning. Not just that the new student had defended herself, but that she'd done so with the cool precision of someone who wasn't showing off, simply protecting herself. What Maya didn't know was that someone had filmed the entire encounter. By the next morning, everyone at Jefferson High was aware. And by that afternoon, her world was about to transform again. By second period the following day, Maya sensed the atmospheric shift at Jefferson High. Whispers followed her like shadows. As she navigated the halls, her footsteps echoing softly on the linoleum, students who had previously ignored her now stole glances, some curious, others openly admiring. Even teachers seemed to pause longer when calling her name during attendance. Maya maintained her neutral expression and focused on her studies, but she knew something fundamental had changed. The crew wasn't dominating the corridors that morning. Their absence spoke louder than their presence ever had. By lunch, the complete story had circulated throughout the school, growing more dramatic with each retelling. Some claimed Maya had thrown Blake over her shoulder like an action movie scene. Others insisted she'd knocked out Chase with a single blow. The truth was simpler but equally impactful. Maya had defended herself with precision, without excessive force, leaving her tormentors stunned and humbled. Entering the cafeteria with her tray, she noticed the usual power center. The large table, where Blake's crew typically sat, was conspicuously vacant. Students shifted slightly as she passed, not from fear, but from something Maya recognized and respected more: acknowledgement. Maya found a quiet spot by the windows and sat down, picking at her salad without appetite. She hadn't sought any of this attention. Her only goal was finishing high school quietly, with dignity, perhaps creating some positive memories. But life, as Uncle Vin always said, had a way of forcing decisions upon you. You couldn't always choose your battles, but you could always choose how you faced them. Halfway through her meal, a shadow fell across her table. She looked up, prepared for another confrontation. Instead, she saw a girl from her English class. "A petite redhead with a warm smile named Jenna McCoy. Mind if I join you?" Jenna asked tentatively, though not fearfully. Maya shrugged lightly, gesturing to the empty chair. Jenna sat down, placing her tray on the table with a soft clatter. They ate in comfortable silence for several minutes, but Maya could sense Jenna, gathering courage to speak. Finally, Jenna leaned forward and said quietly, "What you did yesterday was incredible. Seriously, you have no idea how long people have been hoping someone would stand up to them." Maya gave a small, wry smile. "I didn't plan it," she said honestly. "I just did what was necessary." Jenna nodded enthusiastically. "Still, it mattered. You should know that." Over the following days, more students approached Maya quietly, some to thank her, others to ask if she'd teach them defensive techniques, and some simply to offer respectful nods in the hallways. The sudden shift from invisible to visible felt strange, but Maya handled it with the steady grace and wisdom born from experience. What she hadn't anticipated was Blake's return. It happened that Friday afternoon. Maya was organizing books in her locker when she heard the familiar rumble of his approaching footsteps. She tensed instinctively but forced herself to remain relaxed, remembering her training. Turning to face him directly, she noticed Blake looked different, less arrogant, less certain. His jaw maintained its stubborn set, but hesitation clouded his eyes. Chase and Logan lingered behind him awkwardly, though none seemed prepared for conflict. Blake cleared his throat, glancing around to ensure they weren't attracting attention. "Hey," he said roughly. Maya raised an eyebrow, waiting. I wanted to say I was wrong," he mumbled. What we all did, it wasn't acceptable." Maya studied him carefully, reading the tension in his shoulders and the guilt in his expression. She crossed her arms loosely and replied, "No, it wasn't." Blake shifted uncomfortably under her steady gaze. "I'm not skilled at this," he admitted, "but I wanted you to understand. I'm sorry." Maya let his words hang in the air before giving a small nod. "Apologies are a beginning," she said quietly. "The real challenge is proving it." Blake's mouth twitched, perhaps a grimace, perhaps the start of a reluctant smile. "Yeah," he said, "I understand that." As they parted ways, Maya felt something unexpected. Not exactly forgiveness, but a softening, a loosening of the tension that had gripped her chest since her first day at Jefferson High. Change didn't happen overnight, she knew, but sometimes it began with a single crack in the wall. The next week brought more surprises. Ms. Sandoval, the school counselor, approached Maya after homeroom one morning. "Word travels fast," she said with a knowing smile. "We're launching a self-defense club here. I believe you might be the perfect person to help lead it." Maya blinked, startled. She hadn't considered that possibility. Her instinct was to decline, to maintain her low profile, to avoid standing out further. But something in Ms. Sandoval's warm, encouraging expression made her pause. Perhaps it was time to stop hiding. Maybe it was time to embrace whatever role life was shaping for her. "I'll consider it," Maya said carefully. Ms. Sandoval's smile broadened. "That's all I'm asking." That evening, Maya found Uncle Vin on the back porch, working on an old motorcycle. The Texas sunset painted the horizon in golden crimson, bathing the backyard in soft light. Maya settled on the steps beside him, resting her chin on her knees. "Uncle Vin," she said, "do you ever feel like everyone's watching you and you're unsure if that's positive?" Vin wiped his hands on a cloth and looked at her, his dark eyes kind. "Constantly, kid," he said with a chuckle. "The question is, what will you do about it?" Maya shrugged, gazing at the fence line where shadows stretched long and thin. "I'm not sure. Part of me wants to disappear again. Part of me thinks maybe I can make a positive difference." Vin leaned back in his chair, hands behind his head. "You already are," he said simply. "You defended yourself. You showed them you weren't easy prey. But you also demonstrated that strength doesn't need to be loud or cruel. It just needs to be genuine." Maya let his words settle over her like a warm embrace. Maybe she didn't need to run. Perhaps for once she could stay and build something meaningful. As the first stars pierced the velvet sky, Maya made a silent vow. She would not conceal her strength. She would not let fear or uncertainty control her path. She was Maya Reed, Vin Diesel's niece, and it was time the world knew it. The following Monday, the announcement echoed through the intercom. Jefferson High would launch its first girls' self-defense club, seeking instructors and volunteers. Maya sat frozen as the words resonated through the classroom. Students turned to glance at her, some smiling, others nudging each other knowingly. Her cheeks warmed, but she lifted her chin proudly. Ms. Sandoval found her in the hallway afterward, grinning. "Still considering it?" she teased gently. Maya couldn't help but smile back. "Maybe I'm done considering," she admitted. That afternoon, Maya remained after school, standing in the old gymnasium as sunlight slanted through tall windows, dust particles dancing in the beams. Storage mats had been retrieved, and a handful of girls gathered nervously along the walls, uncertain but curious. Jenna was there, along with other faces Maya recognized but hadn't spoken with before. Some wore athletic clothes, others their regular school attire, but all shared the same expression, a mixture of hope and apprehension. Maya stepped onto the mat, the worn vinyl soft beneath her sneakers. She cleared her throat. her voice carrying, across the open space. "Hi, I'm Maya. I'm not here to transform you into fighters. I'm here to show you that fear doesn't have to control you. You're stronger than you realize. You just need the proper tools." The girls leaned in, listening intently. Maya began with basic techniques: how to break free from grips, how to use leverage instead of brute force, how to maintain balance and awareness. She spoke plainly, explaining that true power wasn't about throwing punches, but about protecting your body, dignity, and personal space. The room gradually filled with the soft sounds of feet against mats, occasional squeals of laughter, when someone mastered a move, and the building energy of growing confidence. For the first time since arriving at Jefferson High, Maya felt not just respected, but truly connected. As weeks passed, the self-defense club expanded. Word spread quickly that this wasn't some superficial after-school program. It was real, practical, and empowering. Even teachers stopped by to observe, nodding approvingly. Maya developed genuine friendships too. Jenna became her closest ally, and a sophomore named Lily, shy but sharp-witted, absorbed every lesson during practice. Small victories accumulated quietly. The girl who finally escaped a wrist grab after 3 attempts. The freshman who learned to shout "no" with her entire being. The senior who confided that, for the first time, she didn't feel helpless walking to her car after dark. These weren't headline stories or viral videos. They were personal revolutions, and Maya treasured each one. Meanwhile, Blake Morrison evolved, too. Slowly, awkwardly, but authentically. He maintained distance initially, offering respectful nods when passing Maya in the halls. But one afternoon, he appeared outside the gym, shifting nervously, hands buried in his faded jeans pockets. Maya raised an eyebrow when she spotted him through the open door. "You lost?" she called out. Blake shook his head, cheeks reddening slightly. "Ms. Sandoval mentioned you might need a volunteer for demonstrations." Maya hesitated. Part of her bristled at the idea. The memory of his raised hand and arrogant smirk remained fresh. But she also noticed the vulnerability in his posture, the way he avoided eye contact. Growth, her uncle had once told her, wasn't clean. It was messy, uneven, and sometimes came from unexpected places. She tossed him a padded helmet and protective mitts. "Put these on," she said. That afternoon, Blake took falls, practiced holds, and served as a willing training partner while Maya taught the other girls how to escape from larger, stronger opponents. He didn't complain, even when landing hard, and the girls grew more confident and bold, laughing and clapping as they mastered each technique. By session's end, Blake sat against the wall, sweating and red-faced, but smiling. As the girls packed up, Jenna approached Maya and whispered, "You're like a real-life superhero, you know that?" Maya chuckled, shaking her head. "Superheroes wear capes," she said. "I just wear sneakers." Life wasn't perfect. Stares and whispers still came from some school corners, but the balance had shifted. Respect had taken root where fear once flourished. Maya now walked the halls with easy confidence, backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes steady. She knew not everyone liked her, and that was acceptable. She didn't need universal approval, only to remain true to herself. One Thursday afternoon, as Maya locked up after practice, Logan approached her. She tensed instinctively, but his hands were deep in his hoodie pockets, his expression serious. "Hey," he said gruffly. "I wanted to apologize too for what we did. I was an idiot. No excuses." Maya studied him carefully, weighing the sincerity in his voice. Finally, she nodded. "Thank you," she said simply. Logan exhaled as if he'd been holding his breath for weeks, nodded back, and shuffled down the hall. Maya watched him go, feeling bittersweet satisfaction. Change was possible, difficult, slow, and often messy, but possible. As spring warmed the air and campus live oaks burst into green, Maya found herself invited to barbecues, study sessions, and birthday celebrations. She laughed more easily now, her smiles unguarded, her posture relaxed. She still trained every evening in the backyard with her uncle, but now it wasn't from fear, it was from pride. Vin watched her with that knowing smile, tossing her a water bottle after intense training. "Told you so," he said one evening as they sat together on the porch steps. "World's tough, but you're tougher." Graduation approached, bringing new choices. Maya had received a scholarship to a local college, partly for academics, partly thanks to an essay about personal strength and community resilience inspired by her Jefferson High experiences. She accepted it, feeling both proud and humbled. On graduation day, Maya stood among her classmates in bright June sunshine, Texas heat shimmering in the air. When her name was announced, she crossed the stage with her head held high, her friends' cheers ringing in her ears. Stepping off the stage, she spotted Uncle Vin at the crowd's edge, sunglasses pushed up into his hair, arms wide open. She ran to him without hesitation, laughing as he lifted her off the ground in a massive bear hug. "I'm proud of you, kid," he murmured into her hair. Maya pulled back, smiling up at him, feeling the weight of everything that had brought her to this moment. "I'm proud of me, too," she said. Later, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned fiery, Maya sat with friends around a park picnic table, their laughter carrying across the warm summer air. She thought back to her first day at Jefferson High, the weight of fear pressing down on her. She thought of Blake, of Jenna, of the girls who now stood taller, spoke louder, and lived braver. She thought of her uncle's unwavering faith, and the strength he had built into her very bones, and she realized, maybe life wasn't about avoiding fights. Maybe it was about choosing the ones worth fighting, and fighting them well. Maya Reed, Vin Diesel's niece, smiled as stars awakened overhead. She was no longer the new girl. She was exactly where she belonged,